This is a Seiko Samurai. So I'm going to try this for the first time, just talk on camera like this. I figured I would get some of my watches in the spotlight, talk about them a little bit, because honestly there's no one really that I talk watches with. Although I'd love to, I just, where I work, no one's really into watches, at least not where, like, who it is that I work with. So I figured it'd be nice to find an outlet to share and honestly just be able to admire my own watches a little bit, because I always find they look so different when it comes to on the wrist and then seeing it on camera. I know myself, I watch a lot of watch videos on YouTube, and I mean I love the way they look, but it never feels like that's the way they wear on the wrist. But I don't know. So I feel like I'm coming to think of watches as being two different ways of enjoying them through the videos and enjoying them by wearing them. But watching them and seeing the real art behind them comes from the videos is fine. So maybe I'll find a better appreciation for the art behind the watches through these videos, and just really showing off my watch. So in this video here, I'll try to wipe down the watch as best as I can. Got some finger oils on it, and just I've been biking wearing this watch, so there'll be some lovely residue from that. But this is how I wear it. But so this is a Seiko SNM Samurai. Right now there's I'm not sure of the reference, but there's the latest generation Samurai that came out, I think, about 2 years ago. This is the first generation of Samurai. No one really knew about it. I didn't know about it because I picked this up at let's call them a liquidator. So they buy up inventory from wholesalers, from returned products, all the way to unused but returned, but because their policy doesn't allow them to sell anything that has been sold, they will sell them in wholesale discount to liquidators. So I bought this, not really knowing what it was. I was at the store. I got a few other interesting pieces there when I first started collecting at, honestly, below gray market value, and so I found this one. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it was, I would say, about 150 Canadian for the full set, which is here. Well, full set is relative, meaning box and a couple of pieces of paper, but I'll show you after. But yeah, so this is, I think, a 2001. No, that might not be right. I'd be more comfortable saying mid 2000s to the later 2000s, maybe 2006, 2008. So this watch was from then. I got this, I think it was, let me think a little bit. I think around 2014, maybe halfway through the year, early January. No. Yeah, I think so. Around then, I think. It's pretty cold. We're in Canada here, Montreal. So I remember it being a bit cold. But I remember this being a warm-hearted pickup. It was interesting. I wasn't really too big into watches, but I was getting into it. I had a few more fashion-oriented pieces, but I was interested by the artistic aesthetic of them. They were not, you'd say now, but they were fashion watches from the period that I got for good prices. Maybe a couple of Citizens as well that I had, but this I found, and it was already a little bit beat up. Just a little bit. It looks like someone maybe wore it for a bit and returned it to Costco when I got it. So it's like a little bit scratched up. Or maybe they bought it from, so I said Costco because that's what That's one of the wholesale retailers that this liquidation shop would buy from. Okay, well, let's look at the watch a little bit. So, as you can see, got that. I think it's the Hokusai Wave. We have if we can read it here, focus, a 7S35 movement. There you go, 7S35. It's really a basic movement, non-hacking, not manual, not hand winding either, but it's a screw down crown. See here, simple, no crown guards. I think the new one has crown guards, so pulls out all the way. Nothing happens. Right now, when you pull it, I could change the time with the hours and minute hands, but the second hand will just keep on going. The second position here would be the date. I'm not going to change it because it's accurate to the time and date now, so I don't want to mess that up. But yeah, very basic. And push down, maybe a little pull back, and then screw it back in. You can see it has a plexiglass, almost like crystal, but it's not. Well, crystal, yeah. So you can see it's taking some scratches. So one of these linear scratches, I think the one that's lined up with the 9 o'clock, I got the watch with. And it was infuriating for a while, but then I came to understand that it was a plexiglass or maybe a mineral crystal. I know that's what they use now, but not what they used in this time. So, very scratched, as you can see in this lighting right here. But it adds to a bit of the character of the watch. So, in this shot, you can also see a bit of the actual dial texture. So it's like a very small waffle. You can see that the Seiko logo is printed into that waffle pattern, as is the text down here that says automatic divers 200 meters. As for that 200 meters, I have not taken this really much into all too much water. I don't know how water protected it is, so I don't really put it at risk. Like I would trust it. I mean, it's Seiko. I doubt it's ever been opened up at all. So this is from from production, unopened. So I would assume everything is tight, but age plays a factor when it comes to water resistance. And I don't want to do anything to mess up the actual movement. Also, what doesn't inspire confidence is the bezel. So I'm pretty sure it's kind of gunky at this point, or just it might have been oiled up from factory, never oiled again. Something of the sort, because now you can hardly hear any sort of detent, and it's mushy. It really has a lot of just soft play. It's not very pleasant. Let's line it up with that's right there. Alright, so as you can see, it does in fact have the standard unidirectional rotating bezel that all dive watches have, especially these basic three-handers. I believe it's aluminum. It's an aluminum bezel. It's showing its age and its wear. You see some of that between the where it is now placed at 45 and 55. There's some real wear there. And that's could be found around the bezel. The lines are not very sharp anymore on the bezel. I'm using my phone camera, so the focus is not always going to be the asset of this type of show. Okay, so there's focus, and some more general focus here. Alright. Yeah, it has its love. You can see it on the lugs as well. But there's a very interesting profile to this. You know, now I have placed the focus on my camera on the watch. So as you can tell, there's an interesting lug profile. It's like this boxy horn style, kind of looks like maybe a lizard's head, with the black dot on the side here being the eye and the drilled lug hole being the nostril. It's interesting. Not sure what it is with these little plastic inserts on the side here. Let's get a little bit of focus. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, what the point of it is. Maybe it's just aesthetic, maybe it's a nod to something that I do not understand. Whoops. My makeshift set. Alright, I wish I hadn't touched this focus. But there you go. It's I have no idea how thick it is, but it's not a thin watch. I want to show you something in comparison that would help. I don't really have much, but I do have an SKX. So let's just compare in width with the SKX. You know, it's similar. Anyone who wears the SKX knows it's not exactly a thin watch, but it wears more rounded on the wrist. Not that it really has any sort of profiling difference that would affect the wear, but it's a more natural curve, where this is an angular curve, which makes it wear a little larger. Lug to lug. Alright, so this will get its own spotlight, the SKX here, but let's just show you what they look like side by side for comparison's sake. That's the size difference. Let's get a little bit of this going on right now. So that's the size difference. They're comparable. Once again, a lug to lug comparison. Oops, difficult getting this grip right, but oh, there we go. Let's see. How would you say? Lug to lug, it's similar, really quite similar. The Samurai, by maybe a millimeter on each end, edges it out. Let's get you that in focus. SKX edges it out. Oops, that's a foreground. In terms of a shorter lug to lug than the Samurai. So, SKX, so the picture with the Samurai again. Alright, so let's look at it. What's it on right now? We're talking about a watch that doesn't wear very elegantly. It's blocky, it's big, it's chunky. And with this lug profile, this strong slant, whatever puts itself up against the case following this angle wears very long. So imagine this following the profile. That's a long distance. So it makes itself very long, and it makes itself very angular up against a circular case. And it just becomes very boxy, especially with these boxed out shoulders on the watch, the semi. Oh, you know what? That's what it probably is. It might be a way that they're showing that these are welded onto the case. I don't know. I don't know. That was just a thought I had just now. So this was like a knurled, I want to say, edge on the bezel. Knurled. Not sure if that's really the term that would be used. Something like this. Knurled edge. Anyway, so we got it looking like. There's something to be said about it. I got it on this rubber strap. This, I want to say $15 Canadian rubber strap, nothing special. Run-of-the-mill replacement style strap that you could be found on Amazon. Pretty good. You know, it'll be able to wear for a long time. But I can imagine it being able to crack. I'm wearing this actually upside down. The whole side of the strap. It's meant to be this way up. As you can tell, it's much smoother, whereas this side is kind of tracked like a tire. These are recessed. There's a recessment here. And this dull part will be underneath. Not very stylized up here, but ventilated down here. Here it's more stylized up towards the top with the double recessment. But I find this side is so boring. I don't like the way it wears. So I flipped it with this cool tire tread pattern on the top. It doesn't ventilate as well underneath, but honestly, I'd rather look at this than all this. Because let me tell you, this bottom half of the strap is extremely long. And you're dealing with a lot of fold. I mean, a lot left over after you put it in. I have a 7 and maybe somewhere between 7.25 and 7.5 inch wrist, I would say. And so something like this, back out of the way. Something like this, look how much strap. So I pretty much wear it on this hole up here near the top. Pretty normal size wrist. I'm a bigger guy in terms of height and overall stature, but I don't have humongous wrists. They're pretty, I don't know, on par for my height and stuff like that and build. So 7.5. So look how much excess strap you have coming out of this, you know, pretty good loop. The loop is good and it holds it in place very, very snug. There's not a lot of play at all, like even when there's no wrist pushing up against it. So when all this is coming out, you can understand that that's something that has a little more texture, a little more personality, is a little bit nicer to look at than something with a pattern that is dull and unappealing. So like that. The strap is a Banda. There's another company that Banda is this pretty much the same as. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I don't want to quote anything. Something like Hadley Roma, but it may not be that, but I'm not sure. Anyway, if it's the aesthetic of the buckle, well, the tang buckle fits the overall aesthetic of the watch, and so does the strap. Very utilitarian because of the low quality nature when it comes to the style of, not the low quality, but you know, it's user grade replacement strap quality. You know, you get what you pay for. $15. You can't really get much better than this for a rubber strap. It matches the aesthetic and the appeal of the watch. Okay, I think the last part I'll show about this is, oh, I'll take it off the rubber strap. So these drilled lugs make for this to be one of the most simplified actions. So the drilled lugs. I wish I could take off this focus, but whatever. We're dealing with it. Here, so you'll see nice little drilled lug hole. Push that, pops right out. So right now, I think I have I definitely have Seiko pin bars in here. So it's a nice big opening for the pin bar. So I was able to put those chunky Seiko pin bars in here. Yeah, look, I can't even push it out. It's just loose enough to be able to put it on. Right? Oh, so it's also a notched or shouldered or stepped strap that help integrate into the very squared off ends of the lug, especially on this side. So it's not faceted and nothing that tightens it or sharpens the corner. So overall, it needs a little bit of a taper. It needs to follow this sharp taper, honestly, or else it cuts too short and it kind of sits too wide. It's a 22 millimeter lug to lug. It's like this. You can see a little bit of taper works wonders for it. Let's get a good angle like this. Yeah, so like that. Okay, so now we'll look into this little box here. So the box says SNM011. That is the reference of what we're just looking at. So we got the original box. Honestly, really nothing special. It's just this little leatherette type of thing. Really what I picked up the watch with. So I said that. This had something, I think maybe a sticker from where it was that I bought it from, but you know, I think I'm a funny guy, and you know, I get laughs in person, but when it comes to writing down stuff, cringe. It's just sad. This is a watch signed Captain Obvious. It's like, oh yeah, maybe someone thinks it's funny. I honestly, as soon as I wrote it, I'm like, this isn't funny. So I'll open it up. We got nothing but luxury, let me tell you. No, that's far from the truth. It's just a this will last you a long time. Felt pillow. Really just a piece of garbage. Then we got the bracelet. I'll show you that in close up soon. And there's really the rest of it. I used to have a little booklet, I think, but it's very possible that I didn't. This was just bare bones. So this is the original tag that I have. Oh, look at that. You can see the original MSRP. So these are some other pin bars, spring bars that have no shoulders on them, actually. Because we're dealing with a watch that has drilled lug holes. So with drilled lug holes, you can afford the luxury of having shoulderless pin bars, which are very sturdy. But if you don't have drilled lug holes, you won't be able to get it out. So I use this sometimes with this watch when I wear the bracelet. Keep from being a little jingly jangly, because I do not like that. Here's an extra link. You could tell it is absolutely beat. let me tell you, that is some used metal. It's the only link I have removed. So here we have the original tag. SNM011, as we said before, being the reference. Some sort of skew, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care about what that means. But now we have this 625 MSRP. Is this Canadian? I would assume this is Canadian. That it was 625 the year it was retailing. I would assume this MSRP is from when it first retailed, which was probably in its year of production and delivery to probably authorized dealers of Seiko watches. I would once again say mid-2000s. But as I had said earlier in the video, I picked this up from a liquidator. Who would buy from wholesale stores like Costco here in Canada, where you can find things for less than their MSRP when it comes to watches, especially. And so I would assume this was selling for less than this stickered 625. I would say maybe around the range of maximum 500, no less than 450 Canadian, that is. I'm not going to convert you right now into US because I don't really care to, as I'm Canadian. But let's just say the FX is 1.33. So if you really want to do it, you can do it yourself. Yeah, so let's look at the original bracelet. Now this thing is just nothing special. Like this is what people speak of when it is Seiko of the mid-2000s. You've got your good watches at a healthy price point. And you got a full solid bracelet. There is no hollow except for maybe these intermediate links right here. The smaller of the two, but I honestly believe that they are solid. As we can look at this removed link here. You see you have the arrow that shows the direction of removal for the pin and sleeve. But look, you obviously see that one's solid. Now the middle one, I'm willing to say that it's solid. It's a solid little piece of steel. So it's a fully solid linked bracelet. We got solid links on the end of it. Obviously this steel has had its life taken out of it pretty much. I would say it was a bracelet that definitely had a nice satin finish with a high polish, like a polished center and a brushed side with brushed sides as well, with brushed sides and brushed outer links. See that in the dive extension as well. So here, actually you can see much better the contrasting finish on this side of the bracelet. If this were to be refinished, it would probably show good signs of life. Now let's talk about this clasp. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that because I haven't touched it in a bit. It's not milled, it's stamped. It's stamped all the way through, I would say. Yeah, stamped all the way through. Stamped metal. Right. Well, it's typical, you know, we're coming off the 1990s where the high end had stamped clasps. So obviously the low end would be implementing that similar technology. So Oh, we got a mini dive extension right here. Ugh, if I can remember how to use it. You could dig a nail in here. How do you use it? Oh, yeah, there we go. So, you got this, you got a clasp, put your thumbnail in here, pull back, then it will open this up. And when you have this opened, it will all come apart. Oh, there we go. Jesus, not exactly a straightforward system. So let me tell you, this is one ugly dive extension. Because I can tell you, for real, this was a purely functional piece right here. As it would wrap around the wrist with a dive suit on, it's just to get that extension. Really, that's it. It's just, it is not an elegant thing. It is not meant to look good. It is meant to work well as a dive watch. Let's open this back up so I can pin this sucker down again. Alright, so it's a pull back mechanism. So a mechanism that pulls in, you might see it here, and snap that back in. It's very elementary. Here we have the pin extension. I do believe I got the watch without all its links. Because I have only removed one. I told you my wrist is not that big. And I would remove another one. I would keep that in, sorry, and not have all this showing. But one of my sleeves is damaged completely, and so I can't hold in the pin on one of these, so the pin will pop out every now and again. I don't like that, so I don't want to lose anything. And it might still be in, it might still have that problem, but less so with one of the links removed, and then I'll just deal with this extra bit of extension coming out, whatever. It actually adds a bit of aesthetic that reminds me of the Rolex Oyster when it comes to this part right here. But it's definitely not that, let me tell you, and it wears wide on the bottom here. So let me get this onto the watch. I'll try and do this on camera. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. So usually I'll open it up. Open it up like that. Please bear with me as I set up this camera to show. This is going to link up to the bottom portion. I'll take those shoulderless pins that we were talking about earlier, pass them through. Got it integrated up to the case flank bracelet system here, which is a bit of a pain. So I've got some tools to work on that. Look, I have cheap as hell tools, all from Amazon and places like that. Usually I'll start with getting one into the hole if I can. Boy. This is a rough watch to do. Honestly, I do not have the patience for this now, so I will not be showing you this watch on the bracelet. You just gotta take my word for it. How about that? Do it off camera. I'm just not gonna do it. That is a fucking hassle. Oops, that's weird. Ooh, yeah. Alright, we're putting this away. It's been a good time. Honestly, it's been a really good time trying to get this Seiko Samurai. It's been a fun watch to own. I don't see myself ever getting rid of it. I have no reason to, but I'd love to share it. So let's put this strap back together. This is some easy business right here, let me tell you. Unlike that godforsaken metal strap. Made it this far. Thanks a million for watching. I love this watch. I hate this watch. He says as he drops it. But I'm so happy I have it. Alright. One last shot. And then you know what we say, boys. Ciao.